Good morning, St. Louis Board of Alderman Stephen Conway.
Good morning, McGraw. How are you?
I'm good. All right, so it was a very busy day the last couple of days, and yesterday sounded like it was fast and furious. What changes were made that got it out of committee yesterday?
Two changes. One was the city has an old amusement tax that the only place we were collecting it recently was against the Rams, but it's a 5% tax on top of the normal sales tax on tickets you buy. And we went ahead and generated some revenue from that and had it put in at 2.5% on events at the soccer stadium, and only for-profit events like NCAA and college leagues and that would not pay it. They're already exempt from it. But it would generate over the course of the time about $7 million over the 28 or 30-year life of this. The other thing is, for some peculiar reason, that property is located in the north side TIF area, and that would have generated some TIF dollars that would have gone to Paul McKee's Northside Regenerative Site. And half of the TIF dollars that would be generated would go into that site and therefore reduce what we might owe. And so in the big scheme of things, that will generate, I can't tell you exactly how much that will generate. I'll know when the financing half of the package comes through. But that will generate some additional dollars to the city of St. Louis, probably somewhere in the area of $10 million over the life of the note, so that about another 28 years.
Stephen Conway, it seems like this new deal. It seems like the city, and it pains me to give you a compliment, you and your colleagues. It seems like, whether it's Greitens or you or everybody else, you drove a harder bargain and got a better deal for the city with this MLS stadium than that was then originally first proposed.
Well, that's true. We are going to pick up additional marginal dollars from this, and it's not just these direct dollars that might amount to $300,000 or $400,000 a year. It still drives the entertainment, the sports venues here in the city of St. Louis. Because the one thing we don't have in any of these calculations are the indirect dollars. If you go to a soccer game, you might go to a bar and get something to eat or drink, or if it's an NCAA event where people are coming in from out of town and they stay in the hotels and spend the weekends here. We make some fairly good dollars off of tourists when they come to town. Not as bad as it going to Florida, but we do make good dollars between all of the taxes that people pay when they're in the entertainment mode.
I've heard that it was going to be harder to get it out of committee than to pass the full board. Is the vote going to be today, and what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that the vote will be today. I think that we'll second read it. The amendments have to be put in. But by next Friday, we would be complete. But that does mean that we have to both what we call perfect the bill, and then suspend our rules and final read the bill, pass it, and get it to the mayor.
And then the mayor signs it, and then a judge still has to put it on the ballot. But that's basically a formality, is it not?
Probably. I wouldn't want to call what a judge does a formality. But we did have that ice storm in there 2 Fridays ago that we closed City Hall and we couldn't meet to move on these things. And I think it's slightly more than a formality, but both bills, this and its companion sales tax bill for the North-South Metrolink, are incredibly important, and it saves the city a significant amount of money to have the election in April rather than to call a special election and endure all of those costs.
Stephen Conway, you're a name that knows all the ins and outs of the city of St. Louis. What are your thoughts as this goes to a vote of the people? Do you think the people in the city of St. Louis will vote in favor of this MLS funding to go forward with an MLS team?
You know, I am kind of surprised personally by the level of support for a soccer stadium in soccer. And it's not just going to be the MLS, the Major League Soccer. We have the opportunity to bring a women's professional league. We'll be able to do all of the college women's soccer and the high school women's soccer. And with women's soccer, it's become a way more popular and participatory sport than it was 20 or 30 years ago. It's a sport that both sexes can take, and I can tell you when the women's Olympic team came to, or World Cup team came to St. Louis, I mean, you couldn't even get a ticket.
Right.
That was the hottest thing that I've ever seen in my whole life. And I think there's a way broader breadth of support, especially at the level of the emails and the tweets that I'm getting regarding a soccer stadium.
So you feel somewhat optimistic that it very well could pass a vote of the people.
Yes, and the one thing that I've stressed with the aldermen, look, you might not like this or be against it, but the whole thing, and even with Alderman Ogilvie and the others, is, look, you're the ones that wanted to vote on the Rams Stadium. You know, if it's a bad deal, the people aren't going to vote for it. I do have a lot of trust in the residents in the city to decide whether or not this is a good deal for them.
Stephen Conway, who was chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, who was instrumental in getting this through at least the committee onto the Board of Aldermen, onto the mayor's office, and then ultimately, hopefully, on the ballot so they can vote in April. Stephen Conway, always a pleasure, my friend. Be good, and I'll talk to you down the road.
McGraw, have a nice day.
You got it. Stephen Conway, who, by the way, if that name sounds familiar, his father was mayor of St. Louis at one point. And as I said, originally, I was under the oppressive thumb of him. He was my alderman when I was in the city of St. Louis. My long national nightmare is over. 726.